Hi, I'm Olivia. I want to tell you my story. I'm going to be 50 years old in a month, less than a month. I'll be 50 years old. When I was 4, I started kindergarten. I was a year younger than everybody. I was left-handed. I was about a good 6 inches taller than everybody, and I was a klutz. I had no skills or perceivable talent when it came to art, and I literally tripped over painted lines. You know, at schools, elementary schools, they have the lines painted on the floors in like the gym or even in the hallways sometimes. Yeah, I would literally trip over those lines. Excuse the howling outside, that would be Cora. So I'm in kindergarten. We're making a art project for our parents. I was making a May basket for my mother. It was definitely a kindergarten project. We're talking a square piece of paper that you turn into a cone, you connect it, you put a handle on it, and call it a May basket. It was not exactly highbrow. So I make my basket, and I'm so proud because I did it. And it didn't matter that it was off kilter, the seam didn't line up, it was crooked, it was ugly. Let's face it. So I make my May basket. I take it up to the teacher. She takes one look at it and she proceeds to inform me that not only is it wrong, that I did not pay attention, I didn't listen to directions, and I had one more chance or else. Now, remember, I'm 4 years old. I wasn't sure what or else meant, but I knew it did not involve being in a room full of butterflies. So I take more supplies back to my desk. I sit down, I focus. I've got the tongue hanging out of my mouth. I'm just so focused on this, and I'm just petrified, just terrified that I'm gonna find out what or else. So I do it, and of course with all that pressure, it's even worse than the first time. Who'da thunk, right? So I take it up to the teacher's desk. She looks at it and she stands up and she looks down at me and she says, worse than the first time. I obviously have no plans on paying any attention to her, so I need to go to the principal's office, right? And I was horrified. I thought, oh my Lord, it's gonna go. You know that permanent record they always tell you about when you're a kid? It's gonna go on your permanent record. Yeah, that was my image. I thought, this is going to go on my permanent record. I am going to be forever marked as the person that didn't listen to directions, right? So I get down to the principal's office. I walk in, bawling, tears running down my face, and he says, what are you doing here? Now, this guy taught my mother in at least 2 grades, so he knew who I was, and he looks at me and he's like, what are you doing here? And I say, Miss, send me to the... And that's about all I could get out. And he figures out what happened, and he says, I don't have time for this. Go back to your classroom. So I go back to the classroom, much to the teacher's frustration. And she is very upset because, you know, she's just been overridden this. The reason I tell you this story, these 20 minutes out of my life as a 4-year-old, they were that moment was that first step on the path of my believing I could never be an artist. I became the family joke. You know, if it involves scissors, don't let Olivia do it. She'll get hurt or hurt someone else. You know, if it needed a straight line, no way. I wasn't even allowed when we painted walls, when we renovated houses, there was no carpet on the floors. I still wasn't allowed to paint the walls because they'll be a mess. So I grew up believing, because of that moment, because of that one woman that couldn't take 30 seconds out for a 4-year-old to even say something like, it's not quite what we're aiming for, but I appreciate the effort. Let's have you try one more time, instead of threat. And that went along. I tried. Every now and then I'd start sketching something, and I would never finish it because it wasn't right. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the way it was supposed to be. It wasn't what it should be. And so about a year ago, just over a year ago, I started doing macrame. Macrame led me to, oddly enough, to start doing resin. I figured out that I was actually okay at macrame. It was something that I was able to take time and focus on. I have some brain injury, and memory is not my best thing. which is why most of my videos are fully scripted ahead of time with a little bit of tweaking here and there on the fly. This one, you'll note, is not scripted. but I found that doing macrame helped me focus. Counting those knots and making sure things were straight, even if it was only for 10 minutes at a time, was able to help me focus a little bit. Then I discovered resin. And one of the cool things I love about resin is so much of it you do upside down. So you don't really know what it looks like until you are done with it, until you demold it, take it out and flip it over and look at it. It's that surprise, like, oh, did it work? And then in April, I went to a conference. I'm an introvert, very much so. I get peopled out pretty quickly. But for some reason, I had this wild hair to go to a conference called Craftcation. Craftcation is fabulous. You know how conferences always promote themselves as, there's no such thing as a stranger. We're all family here. Everybody loves everybody else. It's all rainbows and roses and unicorns and, you know, flying monkeys. This place undersold it. It was totally true. There was no such thing as a stranger in that place. However, people weren't pushy. If I was sitting I had Cora with me, of course. She's my service dog. I'll put a picture here because she's my baby. So if I was sitting in the lobby or such with Cora and someone came by and they wanted to say something, they'd come over, they'd say hi, and then it would be like, well, if you're interested, if you want to talk some more, I'll be over here. Or there's a group of us over here. There was no, they didn't grab you and drag you around to places that made you uncomfortable. It was wonderful. But at this conference, during the opening ceremony, Nicole, who is head of Dear Handmade Life, which runs Craftcation, she got up and she said something that stuck with me. She said that we had permission, and in fact, she encouraged us to make ugly art. And that caught me. It caught my attention because it was the first time someone had ever said it was okay to do something that wasn't perfect. That it could still be art. It could still have a purpose, even if it wasn't pretty or didn't look the way it should look. It really lit a fire under me. And I realized that there had to be, I did my first piece of public art there that I've ever done in my life. I was in drama in high school. I could get up on stage, I could act a fool, do whatever I needed to do on stage, but I could never draw a picture. And I did my vision board. The vision board in my earlier video, which I'll link somewhere around here at the end, I did the board piece of it, which it wasn't much, but it was the first time I'd ever done anything in public, and I didn't have a panic attack doing it, which was a miracle in and of itself. But I realized, it got me to thinking, how many other people out there are like, how many people have been told all their lives that they're not good enough, that they can't do it, that they're not capable, that they just don't have what it takes to be creative. I'm not saying that I will end up being the next, I can't even think of an artist at this moment, the next Van Gogh, or that I'm going to be some world famous sculptor or anything like that. But I figured out I can have fun while I'm trying. I can have fun in the mistakes, and I can enjoy the mishaps, and I can laugh at the fact that while filming today, I discovered I have resin in my hair that I did not catch before I went on camera. I can laugh at that now. And along the way, I can learn new skills. Tomorrow, I'm going to a watercolor class, which I never thought I would do. And it's gonna be fun. Even if I suck at it, it's gonna be fun because I'm going into it with a positive outlook, looking at it from a different perspective. And so I hope that along the way, there's people who have felt the same way, who have felt pushed down and belittled and whatnot throughout their lives, but have always wanted to try something artistic, whether it's writing or music or cooking or or painting or whatever, I hope that some of you will join me on this and feel that it's okay to try. And I hope that you'll share your both your successes and your failures. In fact, I would love to see more failures, because so much of this world we're taught that you have to be 110% in order for it to be okay. And you don't. As long as you're giving it 110%, if it comes out to be a 30% worth grade, that's okay, because hell, you gave it a shot and you learned something from it, I would assume. So anyway, that's my story. I hope you'll continue joining me, and welcome aboard the journey.